There is a man who thinks about you constantly. He replays your laugh in his head at 2 in the morning. He starts to type a message, then deletes it. He sees something that reminds him of you, and for a brief moment, something inside him cracks open, and then he closes it again. He wants you, and yet to you he is completely silent. No call, no text, nothing, and you have been sitting there wondering what is wrong with you. But here is what nobody ever told you: nothing is wrong with you. The silence was never about you at all. What you are about to hear will change the way you understand men, desire, and silence forever. And by the end of this, you will not just understand him, you will understand something far more important. You will understand yourself. Most people look at silence and see rejection. That is the first mistake. Silence in the presence of deep desire is one of the most misunderstood human behaviors in the history of relationships. And the reason almost nobody talks about it truthfully is because the truth is uncomfortable. It forces us to look at something we have all been taught to ignore, the terrifying, paralyzing, almost unbearable weight of wanting someone so much that you become afraid of your own feelings. Think about the last time you wanted something so badly it scared you. Maybe it was a dream you were afraid to chase because failure felt too devastating to risk. Maybe it was a friendship you pulled back from because getting too close felt dangerous. Now take that feeling, that specific kind of fear that only the most important things in life can create, and multiply it by the raw, uncontrollable force of romantic desire. That is what he is living inside of, and he has no idea how to get out. Here is the psychological truth that most people never learn. The intensity of someone's silence is often directly proportional to the intensity of their feelings. The more a man craves you, the more dangerous you become to him, not because of anything you did, but because of everything you represent. You represent the possibility of something real, and real things can be lost, real things can hurt. Real things require a man to show up as something he may have never been taught how to be: vulnerable. Now you might be asking, but if he feels all of that, why not just say something? Why not just reach out? That question seems simple. The answer is anything but. To understand why a man goes silent when he craves someone, you have to understand something about the way most men are built emotionally, not biologically, but socially. From a very young age, boys receive a message that gets repeated in 1,000 different ways. Do not need too much. Do not feel too deeply. Do not let anyone see that something matters to you, because if you do, you become weak. And weakness, in the world most men are raised in, is the one unforgivable crime. So men learn to protect themselves in a very specific way. They learn to act indifferent toward the things they want most. It is not manipulation, it is armor. It is the only emotional tool many of them were ever given. And when a man meets a woman who genuinely moves him, who gets past the armor without even trying, something in him panics. Because she has gotten close to something he has spent his entire life guarding. This is where attachment theory becomes essential to understand. Psychologists have long studied the way human beings connect or fail to connect with one another. And what they found is that most people fall into one of a few broad patterns. Some people are secure. They can give and receive love without excessive fear. But a large portion of people, especially men who were raised in emotionally unavailable environments, develop what is called avoidant attachment. And avoidant attachment does something that looks, from the outside, almost exactly like indifference. It creates distance. It creates silence, not because the feelings are absent, but because the feelings are overwhelming. The avoidant person does not pull away because they do not care. They pull away because they care too much. and have no safe way to hold that much caring without feeling like they might lose control. And losing control to someone built this way feels like dying. So here is what actually happens inside a man who craves you but says nothing. He feels the pull toward you, he recognizes it, and then immediately, almost automatically, a counter force activates. A voice that says, "This is too much, this matters too much." If you reach out and she does not respond the way you hope, you will feel it in a place you cannot defend. And so instead of risking that, he does what feels safer. He retreats into silence and tells himself a story. He says, "I am just giving her space. I do not want to seem desperate. I will reach out when the time is right." But the time never feels right, because the fear never goes away on its own. And while all of this is happening inside him, while he is fighting a battle she cannot see, she is sitting on the other side of the silence, interpreting it completely differently. She thinks it means he has moved on. She thinks it means she was not enough. She starts to question every conversation they had, every moment that felt real, wondering if she imagined it all. She did not imagine it, but she is receiving silence and translating it through her own fear, her own attachment history, her own wounds. And two people who actually want each other end up paralyzed, separated not by a lack of feeling, but by an excess of it. This is the quiet tragedy that plays out in millions of relationships every single day, not because people do not feel enough, but because they feel too much and have never learned what to do with that. Now here is the part of this conversation that most people never reach. And this is important, so stay with this. Understanding why he is silent does not mean the silence is acceptable. Understanding the psychology behind his behavior does not mean you should wait indefinitely in the hope that he will one day find his courage. Because here is the hard truth: some men never do. Some men carry their avoidance into every relationship they ever have, and they leave a trail of confused, doubting, heartbroken people behind them. Not out of cruelty, but out of an emotional limitation they have never been forced to confront. And this is where the real question shifts. The question is no longer, why is he silent? The real question is, what does his silence ask of you? Because you have two choices when you are standing in someone else's silence. The first choice is to pour yourself into interpreting it, managing it, trying to draw him out, making yourself smaller or more available or less threatening in the hope that he will finally feel safe enough to step forward, and that path is exhausting. It places your entire sense of worth in the hands of someone who cannot even manage his own feelings yet. The second choice is harder. It requires something most people are not taught to do. It requires you to stop making his silence about you and start asking what you actually need. Here is the insight that changes everything. The reason his silence hurts so much is not just because you miss him. It is because somewhere along the way, you started to use his attention as evidence of your own value. His pursuit felt like proof that you were worthy of being pursued, and his silence felt like proof of the opposite. But that connection between his behavior and your worth is false. It has always been false, and seeing it clearly, really seeing it, is one of the most liberating realizations a person can have. Your value does not live inside someone else's ability to express their feelings. Your worth is not determined by whether a man who is afraid of his own emotions can find the courage to tell you what you mean to him. You were whole before he went quiet. You are whole now, and the woman who understands that truly understands it, not just intellectually, but in her bones, is a woman that no silence can diminish. Now let us talk about what this actually looks like in real life, because this is not abstract. This happens to real people. Consider a woman named Sarah. She met someone who lit up every room they shared. Their conversations ran until 3 in the morning. He told her things he said he had never told anyone, and then, gradually, the messages slowed, the calls stopped. The silence set in, and Sarah did what most people do. She started to audit herself. She wondered if she had been too available, too eager, too honest. She pulled back to see if he would chase. He did not, and she carried that silence as evidence of her own inadequacy for years. What Sarah did not know, what she could not have known without understanding what you now understand, is that he had ended a 5-year relationship 8 months before they met. He was not healed. He wanted connection desperately, but every time it got real, his nervous system treated it like a threat. His silence was not a verdict on Sarah. It was a symptom of his own unprocessed pain. Sarah was not the problem. She was actually the mirror, the person who reflected back to him everything he had been running from in himself. And that is the final truth this video has been building toward. When someone craves you and goes silent, they are not just running from you. They are running from themselves, from the version of themselves that could be hurt, from the version of themselves that needs someone, from the version of themselves that is not as in control as they need to believe they are. You just happen to be the person who made that version of them visible, and that is not a flaw in you. That is actually a testament to the depth of what you carry. The people who trigger the deepest silence in others are often the people with the most genuine presence. There is something in you that reached something real in him. That is not nothing, that is rare, but rare does not mean it is yours to wait for indefinitely. Rare does not mean you owe someone your patience while they figure out what you already know. So what do you do with all of this? You stop waiting for his silence to speak. You stop translating his fear into your failure. You stop shrinking yourself to fit into the space his avoidance has created. You start asking, not what does he want from me, but what do I want for myself? What kind of love do I actually deserve? And the answer, if you are honest with yourself, is the kind of love that does not require you to decode silence. The kind that shows up, the kind that speaks, the kind that is not too afraid of its own feelings to reach for yours. Because at the end of all of it, after all the psychology and the attachment theory and the real life stories, the simplest truth is this. Love that hides is not ready to be loved yet, and you deserve someone whose love does not hide. This is the honest mind. Think deeper, live better,